Well, hello there, crafting friends. This is Traci Raether from Plum Crazy Stamping. And gosh, it's already past the middle of April, April 16th, and time for our weekly card making lesson. I'm so glad to be here, and I look forward to sharing with you a really cool fun fold. And I took the idea from the card challenge that I have up on the Plum Crazy Stamping business page and also in the Card Conversations Facebook group. So if you are in either of those groups, you're welcome to join the card challenge and post a card and then be entered in a drawing for a prize. The prize that I have going on right now, let's well, here, I'll just show it this way. It is actually a mailing with, all right, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 card fronts, and then some additional strips of paper that match these card fronts that will be given to 3 different individuals in the card challenge. So just a reminder about that. And the card challenge is really simple. It is black and white with 1 accent color. And so here's one of the examples that I shared. And there's another one that I posted, let's see, yesterday maybe. And today is also going to be a card designed that could meet the criteria to be in the card challenge too. So if you don't have a card design idea, you can just copy this with your own black and white paper and or accent color. So I just want to make it easy for you, right? Okay, let's I'm going to put the camera down here so you can see the products I'm using today. And then we're going to take a look at the card in a basic format. And then today, when I make it with you, I'm going to step it up. So let's just change our screen here. And as I'm doing that, I'll say hello, Betty. Hi, Kim. Nice to see you here. Just as a reminder, as you're joining the broadcast today, please use the comments to let me know who you are, where you're watching from. If you are on YouTube, you'll need to be in your YouTube account or your Google account in order to use those comments. If you watch this on the replay, please still use those comments to sign in and ask any questions or share feedback with me on this project. I will watch the comments afterwards to respond to you. So anyway, let's go ahead and get started. So I am using what is called the, I think it's Texture Notes Suite. It is an online exclusive stamp set. So you do need to visit my online store to see all of the products, but I'm going to show them to you now. And welcome, Kelly and Vicki. Nice to see you. So this first, the unique thing that I really like about this suite is there are 2 sets of 12 by 12 paper as a part of this. Now, the botanical textures are all black and white, and that's what I'm using for the card that I'm making today. So let me just share these with you. They're gorgeous. So these are the 2 that I am focused on. I'm going to add a little bit of some others as well. But all kinds of black and white. And I'll tell you, when I show you the card, you'll see how that makes a card jump. You know, it just looks so pretty. So this is one side. And now let me turn these over. And on the other side, there are also 6 more prints of black and white. And I'm going to show you some unique things you can use with these patterns today and some techniques for when you're using black and white designer series paper like this. So anyway, that's one of the 2. The other is a photographic look at textures. Oh my, I haven't even opened this yet. Let me just get this open so I can show you these because they are gorgeous. I was actually on a broadcast yesterday watching another stamping demonstrator share this information, and she happened to know, well, actually, it was the CEO of Stampin' Up, that this is both of these designer sets of paper are selling well, but this one is actually selling faster than the black and white one. So let me just pull these out here. These are really unique. Let's see. Oh, and this one has 3 each of 4 different designer series paper for a total of 12 sheets. And there are 2 sides to these as well. These could go for any kind of card. This is kind of like if you can't find something you want on your card, or you don't want to go with a certain color, just look at how beautiful and how pretty these would be to put on your card. So you're not able to see this last one. So these are all also in the suite. I'm not going to share those today, but I will obviously be sharing those on another day. And then to go with this, so kind of a mixture of the textures and then the foliage that you see in the black and white, and 3 really nice sentiments are in this stamp set. And then the called textured notes. This is the die set. Now you're going to see I used 3 of the dies in today's project. So they're kind of here. I used the largest one. Then I skipped one and used the next 2 sizes. And then there's even 3 more and a 4th rectangular die. These are so pretty. If you can see them, they each have a different design around the rectangle cutout. And when you're looking at these cards, you can see that detail, and it is really gorgeous. So that is the die set, and you can get a die set and the stamp set together for a 10% discount. They also have a special mini corrugated 3D embossing folder. Now, I didn't use this yet today either, but I'll make sure to share it with you when I do the other designer series paper. But it's really cool, a mini corrugated piece of paper. Nice texture, right? The other thing about this is they have a white polyester ribbon that you can color with your Stampin' Blends to be any color you want. So this is really fun. If you don't have ribbon matching what you want to do, you can make that color with your Stampin' Blends. And then they have neutral matte dots that match. So they're in white. Can't kind of see those here. White, black, like the very vanilla color or basic beige, and then pecan pie. So very pretty for more neutral cards. This suite would be excellent for masculine cards. Okay, let me set that off to the side. I don't think I'm going to need them right now. And the thing that I'll show you is the Botanical Textures card tutorial for cards in here. If you make at least a $50 purchase from Plum Crazy Stamping during the month of April, you will get this 4-card tutorial free from me via email. And so just want to let you know that that's going on. Also, there's a new Stampin' Up! Rewards program that started yesterday. And the great news is once you've purchased $20 worth of product, you will get a 10% reward that you can use on your next order. So if you order just $20, you're going to get $2 of rewards for your next purchase. So that is starting now and would apply to this. And if you need help ordering, don't hesitate to reach out to me. Traci Traci at plumcrazystamping.com, or you can call me at 920-420-0089. All right, let's go ahead and get started. So I am going to share with you the basic card that I made. Now, this meets the criteria for the card challenge I have going on right now on Plum Crazy Stamping, the business page on Facebook, and also in the Card Conversations Facebook group. So either way, you can get involved. Let's see, have I seen the dies from End Notes and Totes using DSP as woven beach bags? You know what, Vicki? I have seen one thing on it, but not a whole lot. So that may be a great thing to put together with this set. I want to say hello to Sue and Brenda and Corey, Natalie, Kathy, and I'm glad you're liking this card, Kim. So what I decided with my black and white, my accent color today is going to be Lost Lagoon. And then this is a fun fold, a very easy fun fold, but a gorgeous fun fold. And so I will show you how I made these and the parts and pieces for this, but then I'm going to step it up. So anyway, and I want to just see if you can, when I put it up here, you probably cannot see the detail, but there is detail around the designer series paper when I cut that out. The white also has a design in it. Now the black that I'm using to layer, I did not use a die for it because I wanted it to be just a very thin frame. And then once again, I used a die that had a different edge on it, and they're just so very pretty. All right, so let's go ahead. Let's create this, and then let's step it up. So I'm going to show you the structure of the fun fold, and you're going to just be hopefully very happy at how easy this card is to make. So this is our regular half piece of 8.5 by 11 cardstock. So this is 8.5 across, 5.5 top to bottom. Okay. Once I have that 8.5 and 11 cut in half here to 5.5 inches, then I just score it at 4.25 right here. That's my usual score for when I'm making a card that fits in a medium A2 envelope. And then I did a score here at 2 1/8. That is half of 4.25. All right. So now when I make this card base, I'm just going to fold it in half. That's the 4.25 inch score. And then I'm just going to flip back the 2 1/8 inch score, which is half of the other score, right? And there's the structure that provides our Z fold. Now, this is a card design in itself. You can put, some designer series paper here, do something in here, and you've got a fun fold. So that is very simple. You can step it up by just taking what would be half of this card and just having that on its own. So this is 4.25 by 5.5 inches. And we're going to be gluing this together onto this front fold. And that's how we get the structure for this fun fold. Now, how easy is that, right? So this you can repeat over and over again, and you can do this different ways by how you layer your designer series paper, what you leave colored or put accent pieces of colored cardstock in here, or more designer series paper, which is what you're going to see me do today. You can decide just to put a card insert. Since this is black, obviously I would put a lighter color card insert that would measure 4 and 5.25, 4 by 5.25. to make the inside of the card, or you can do some designer series paper layering, which is what I'm going to do today. All right, so very easy structure. And I'm not going to glue anything together until I decide all the parts and pieces so that I don't accidentally glue something when I have to stamp off the edge of it. I think you guys have seen me do that. And so this is how I try to avoid that. All right. Also, when I'm designing on the go, which is part of what I'm going to do today with the stepped up version of this card, I don't want to commit to anything. I want to leave my options open. So I'm going to not glue anything down. Okay. So we've got all of the card available to us. Remember, this is the one part that's going to be glued to the front of the card. So I'm not going to be designing anything for right here. But remember, when I have this on here, half of this is going to be visible. So if I want to do something there, I have an opportunity. Okay. So then I took the designer series paper, and this was really easy. When I cut that 12 by 12, a lot of times what I'll do is cut that 4 inches by the 12 inches, and then I'll work with it, because then I have 2 more pieces just like that one to work with on my cards, my scrapbook, etc. So unless I know I'm doing some 12 by 12 layout for a scrapbook, a lot of times this is how I end up starting with my designer series paper, unless I'm doing a design where I use 12 by 12 and I fold it up in a unique way and you can see both sides of the designer series paper. So welcome, Sue. Glad you're here. Now, this is the one that I did do with that largest die that's part of that bundle. And so this has a really nice edge on it. And so that's the one that I cut for the front of the card because I wanted the detail. All right. So that is just my normal card front. Then, since as someone opens this or wants to display this, one of the things I like about these Z-fold designer series cards are they stand up. Okay. And if someone does that, then they're going to see what's inside the card. So I decided to use another piece of designer series paper, and I cut that at the usual card insert size of 4 by 5 1/4. Then, to get some additional use out of those dies and do some really pretty layering, I decided that I would first take a smaller piece for the front of the card because I wanted more design space on the card front, so that I was like actually featuring the designer series paper, if you will. So that is how I did this on the first one. And then I took, get some, just some designer series paper, and without measuring, I just glued this on here by eyeballing it. And then I'm going to show you how I do this in my trimmer. No measurements needed. So since I have the dies, they're already predetermined, then I just kind of take a shortcut in how I frame them to make this pop on the front cover. So we're going to be doing that together. All right. And then I decided that I was going to have, a smaller space for the sentiment and for someone to write inside this card. So this is a little bit bigger because I wanted to be able to put a sentiment. I want to put a focal image, but I still want room for people to write. Okay. So that's that one. So now this is kind of like how the other card was set up. I did my stamping and I was done. Okay. But now I want to step this all up. So let's go ahead and do that as we do our stamping and creating the different parts of our card. Okay. So the first thing I want to do is with this structure, I'm going to set these things off to the side here. On this card, these were blank. I thought this would be a perfect opportunity to just feature some more of the designer series paper. So how often do we have like a 2-inch scrap? I think these flaps are 2 1/8. So if I want to put designer series paper on here really skinny, I could just do 2 inches. If I want to keep the amount of space the same as this is around, I believe I will do 1 7/8. Okay, so 1 7/8 will be for each of these panels. And then I'm going to, instead of 5 1/2, let's see, 5 7/8. I'm going to try the 5 7/8 on here too to make the panel. I may actually go down to 5 3/4, but let's check it out, okay? So I'm going to pick another one of those sheets of designer series paper because I want to share another pattern. Let me just grab these here. So I've really been showing off the leaves, right? So those were both leaf patterns. Let's see. So I could go with the third leaf pattern, but that might be a little busy. So I'm actually going to flip these over. And I like this. I think this is too much black because my card base is black. So I don't want that one. I kind of like this swirl look. And once again, this is pretty, but if I had a white background, I'd like this one or this one. Since I have the black background, I'm going to go with the two that have more white. And you know what? I think if I do two different ones, it's going to be a bit chaotic. So I'm going to go with one. So I'm going to do that to kind of blend with the foliage here. And I like that it's lighter, more white in the paper because I have the black background. Okay. So let's go ahead and just cut our 2 1/8 inch here. And let me, measure twice, cut once, right? Because I'm going to make a big cut here. Oh, actually, yeah, not 2 1/8, 1 7/8. See? It's a good thing to double check. So let's do 1 7/8 along this edge. And I do want it to go up and down. I don't want a stripe going this way because it's going to be skinny. I like the longer look. So 1 7/8. And just cut that. And now let me just look at this and measure again because now I want to do how 1 7/8 is literally leaving an eighth on each side. So if I do this and leave the eighth, it actually looks, let's see here, 5 3/8. 5 from 5 1/4. 5 3/8. No, 5 1/4. Nope. I think I was right the first time when I said that I wanted it to be, let's do 5 1/4. I'm going to do 5 and, math at this time of day and I skipped lunch is not a good thing. Let's do, so the full card would be 5 1/2. And I don't want to go all the way down to 5 1/4. So I am going to do 5 3/8. And let's see what it looks like. Yep. All right. And you know what? If it's not right, it's art, right? 1 2 3/8. Okay. Let's see what it looks like. see, I am going to take another eighth off of here. So 5 2/8, which is 5 1/4. So let's see what that looks like. There, now it's equal all around. So we did, and I'm going to write it down for myself, 1 7/8 by 5 1/4 for the panels on the inside. So let me just cut this other one. So I just need to cut this one by 5 1/4 yet. All right, now they both should match, and we've got those extra panels cut. All right. So these are going to go here, and when I put this on, it's going to go on here. So we've got all of that. All right. Phew, glad that's done. Okay. Let's see. So now we're going to continue with the front of our card. And so on this one, I did make the extra mat, but I didn't measure. So let me show you that. And we're going to use our trimmer again. I'm going to move these out of the way as I build this. I'll bring them back when I'm putting it together. But before I do the next cutting of the black, I'm actually going to stamp this. So let's go ahead and just set this on here, because the stamping at this point, it's not going to go over, but in case it was going to, I'd have, some scrap paper behind it. I've got my Lost Lagoon. Let me find the larger stamped image here. And we'll get this inked up. Now, does anybody have this stamp set, or have you used it yet? This, I think, between, the rectangle dies with all those unique, designs on them, and then this beautiful foliage stamps, and I love the font and the sentiments. This is a dandy. Every once in a while I find these stamp sets that, oh my, I could use them over and over, and I can use them with other stamp sets because they're a great accent. It's awesome. So anyway, this is one of those stamp sets. All right, so there we've got our image. And let's see, what else am I going to stamp? Let me just stamp all of these. I'm going to stamp the inside part of this as well. I'm going to use the smaller branch of leaves here on the inside. All right, I'm looking carefully because I found out when I was doing that first card, see, there's a little ink on the edge. This stamp pad has a lot of ink in it, so I just need to be careful of my edges. So just wiping those off with my little scrap adapter. And then I'm going to put this on a little bit at an angle here. And there we go. These are nice cling stamps, so I don't need my pierce mat. I can just do them straight on. I just think that's such a perfect leaf branch with leaves. I like it. Okay, so now I've got that. Now I want to do the top sentiment, and I'm going to do that in black. Let's see if I want this other ink pad. I'll leave it out for a while. All right, so I'm going to go to my Memento Tuxedo Black. All right, and just going to center this on the top, but not upside down. A little note of appreciation. There we go. I just love this size of this sentiment too, as well as the font. All right, and then I'm going to do a thank you. And I did decide that in this case, I'm going to use just a scrap, and I'm actually going to punch this out. And I did one where I didn't like how the ink was, so I'm just going to cross that out. So when I do it on this side, I don't mix up which side I want to punch out, right? So where's that stamp? Here it is. So let's just do the thank you. And I thought a lot about whether or not I wanted to put this on another rectangle. Did I want to cut a piece of cardstock across it? And I decided I'm going to do a circle to mix it up a little bit, right? So there we go with our thank you. And now do I have all my stamping done? I believe I do. So let's get lids closed here so I don't stick something in them that I don't intend. Okay. And I'm going to go ahead and pop this out with a 1 3/8 inch punch. Now you're going to see I got two different types of punches. This is what they call a whale tail, because I've bought these at different times. So there's the thank you. Okay, but I want to pop this up as a little color. So now I'm going to use my 1.5 inches and just punch that to do a little background, right? Okay, kind of leave that to the side. I'm going to glue these together because they're going to be a part of the front. Now you can do, different circles based on punches you have, based on dies you have. You can get, I wouldn't call them stencils. I'm trying to think of the name for the other way you can trace them and cut them. Anyway, okay, so now we're bringing our parts and pieces together here. All right, so what else are we going to do to add a little pop here? Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and do the background of black on here like I did, on this one. I put the black on there, right? So let's do that first. And what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to glue this right onto here, and I am going to eyeball the two sides. And then I'm going to use my trimmer to do the other two. Now you could use a long bladed scissors to make that cut. I wouldn't use a short little scissors because the chance of doing it a little crooked is more if you have a short blade. But I find that the trimmer is my best option to make a straight cut. And when you eyeball these two edges up all the way to the opposite corner, you have the best chance of making these equal. If they're not exact, it doesn't matter, but just know that that's kind of a hint to do that. And then, I've been doing this a long time, so I'm kind of used to what my widths are. But what I do is I turn this now, is I'm going to line up this white with the edge of the darker brown in my trimmer, and or right at the edge of the clear part of the track. I do want to put this right up against the trimmer so that it's as straight as it can be. Okay. And sometimes I choose to do two cuts just to make sure I've got it in the right place, but I think we're good here. Okay. So then I trim along. Now you can see this is a little bit thinner, so I'll be able to adjust this side. Okay. And then line it up again, right where that is, knowing probably a little bit inside of that. So now you can tell they're all, these three are the same. This one's a little shorter. So I'm going to adjust, and I can just adjust the one side and leave the top and bottom a little more. You know, once again, when you're the artist, you can do whatever you want. So let's just thin this one out. Oops, I really thin that out. Sometimes doing those really thin ones are hard because see how thin this was? And it doesn't take so well. So let's just repeat that. And there. That time when I took just a little bit more, it worked better. And I'm going to leave the top and bottom like this. All right. But now what I'm going to do is I want to double layer, because remember, I'm stepping this up. So I'm now going to glue this on to the Lost Lagoon scrap I have. And I can decide, you know, do I want to make this about the same or do I want it thicker? But remember, I don't want to cover up so much of this beautiful designer series paper because I'm going to do something to this too. So you know what? I'm going to keep a thin border on this one as well. So let's glue it down. Now, if you want to measure and cut, you sure can. This is just another way. If you don't want to deal with those eighths, like sometimes I don't want to. All right. So I am just going to leave this to be a thin border as well. Okay. I got a little glue sticking out there. Okay. So let's go ahead and trim this one down. Let's see, there's the track. There's this. All right. And then let's do this again. And so we've got a frame on this, and see the difference of when you put this around it. And then I have my thank you also like this. Okay. So another thing that we can do to step this up is I actually stamped 2 more of these. I fussy cut them because this does not come with dies for this. And if you want to, you can pop these up and then put your thank you down here. Okay. Or you could kind of leave this gathering. I kind of like covering this up. You could put your thank you up here too. Okay. So that's another option. Here's another option for the front. Now, since this set has, this suite has that white ribbon, you could color it with your Stampin' Blend. I can't find my Lost Lagoon Stampin' Blend, but what I did have was a piece of Lost Lagoon ribbon. So I like putting one of these in the middle just for a little accent, and you would just put it on and tape it onto the back. So I'm going to do this after I do the next technique to make this different. I'm actually going to get out my blending brush, and I'm going to just add a little color into this black and white background. So I'm going to take the Lost Lagoon, and I'm going to take my blending brush here, and I'm just going to ink it up a little bit. Okay, and I'm going to start off the paper, and I'm going to go in circles, and then I'm going to come onto the paper and just very lightly add the color. And I'm going to put some down here on the bottom. Now, one of the things that you could choose to do is you could do the whole background if you wanted to. I just want to put a little touch of it here and there for my accent. But like I said, if this was your color and you wanted to make the whole thing, with a colored background and have the black and white, you surely could. And maybe just a little bit right there. Okay, so that adds just a little bit of something, right? Okay, so let's go ahead and put our card front together. And then we're going to move on to the inside and what else we can do. So we've now, see how nice that is with just a little color? This would be a beautiful card front too. You don't even have to do all the layers. Just let the designer series paper do the work. So let's go ahead and get our glue on here. So I'm not sure even how many ideas I've shared about how you could do this card front, but boy, taking this 1/4 of a piece of cardstock and decorating it in a number of ways would allow for you to have multiple cards that all kind of could be part of a set, right? Oh, and now you know what I did? I didn't glue my ribbon in, so we're not going to put the ribbon on here. I would have put it on top of just the designer series paper if you wanted it. So that's another idea, but for another day. Okay, let's get our double. I don't know if I want it on here. Let's see. Or is that too busy? Yeah, it doesn't cut it. Even if I put this up here, I don't like it. So, yeah, like I said, for another day. But you know what I am going to do with this is I am going to pop this up. And with that double layer, it looks totally different. But I'm going to use the dimensionals as the way I get some variety in this card front. All right, there we go. Okay, so what do you think of adding that Lost Lagoon layer, compared to this one? And I don't know if I want to add one of these or not. Let's see. I think with the leaf background, I like the single leaf. But you know what? Everybody's got their own preferences. I'm going to attach this just like I did before. But because I have this up, I'm going to put one dimensional in this corner and glue here. And I'm just going to use a little dimensional, one of the minis. And I'm going to put it right here. And then a little glue opposite. Okay. And then that will allow that to be at the same height as the front of the card, okay? All right, so I'm going to let that be the front, except I do have one other thing. Where did those dots go that are part of this set? Oh, here they are. I think what I'm going to like to do is add the dots. Let's do that. Need to take your pick tool. And remember, I'm doing this for the card challenge, so I am going to stick with the black. And I'm going to put a larger one right on the thank you. And then let's put two. around our leaves. There we go. Okay, so that's a nice way to just add a quick embellishment. All right, now we've got the front of that card done, but let's do the inside, and then we're going to put this whole thing together. So let me grab this, and now I'm going to just glue on. Remember, this is going to be the back of this, so I'll glue that. Hope you can't see me. I'm just putting glue on this. Too many things on the desktop here, so I'm going to put this just way to the left-hand side. Okay, there we go. And then this one, I'm just going to glue onto the other panel that will show. And just centering. All right, now I want to show you another technique that I'm going to do on this piece before I actually put this together. So I get a lot of questions about what to do with your Stampin' Write markers. Okay, so this is the one that is, let's see here. These are not alcohol-based. These are water-based dye ink. So they're like our stamp pads, okay? So if you don't have these, you can use your blending pen after you take your ink pad. Now, I don't do this, but you can smush this pad onto here, make a little ink well, and then you use the blender pen to pick up the ink. Okay, that's one way you can do it. But I'm going to do it by picking some of the leaves on the side, and I'm just going to use my Stampin' Write marker here. I'm going to use the nib tip, and I'm going to just color or actually use some line images just going along the leaf. And maybe where it's shadowed a little, I'll color it in a little bit more. Okay. And I'm not necessarily going to do every one. This is just to bring in an accent color in my card design in a different way than Stampin' Blends, than stamping. So I could have, well, I could stamp a background of my own on white with the Lost Lagoon, you know, using this stamp, right? I could make my own background that way. So lots of choices. You know, sometimes it's just like sit and think about, how could I add just a little something, something, right? Now, I'm not done yet because what I'm going to do is actually blend this. And you could blend this the same way. If I had stamped this in Lost Lagoon and I wanted to fill in these leaves, I would use this same technique because remember, that's water-based ink too. So there's a couple different ways you can lay down this ink and then do the technique I'm going to show you with the blender pen. All right, let's see how this looks before I do any more. So now I'm just going to take your blender pen, and your blender pen just has no color, but it's going to pick up the color that you have wherever you use the blender pen, but it's going to just do it light. So this is a way to create shadowing like we can when we use the two different colors of our Stampin' Blends, but with the Stampin' Right markers. Okay. Now, because this is designer series paper and not cardstock, you don't want to rub too much with the blender pen because you can get the paper to pill a little bit, which is just what was happening there. So you just kind of have to use a little bit more of a soft touch when you're doing this. But it's a nice way to get the shadowed effect. Now, when you buy blender pens, you get 3 in a set. They last forever. I did a coloring class with Stampin' Right markers and did a lot of things that you can do with Stampin' Right markers that I think we often forget about. I'm so glad that I did that class because it reminded me of some of these techniques I used to do when I was a beginning stamper and just loved it. So, you know, if you haven't done some of these things or if you haven't colored like this lately because you've been using Stampin' Blends, maybe you want to pull them out and use it because it really is fun and it's a different kind of technique. So there, that is just another accent. And then I think that this looks very different than just this. So it's a way to add a little bit. If you wanted to color them all in, you could, but I don't know that you need to. I think it's just enough to create a pop. So that is going to be that. And I'm going to go ahead and glue this down. Okay, that's good to know. Kathy's saying, she takes it directly from the ink pad and doesn't do the smooshing. And I like that better because I don't like my ink pads being all messy. So I know I shouldn't care because they're art tools, but another good tip, just put your blender pen in the ink pad. All right, now we'll do this. And center that up. All right, and then I'm going to go ahead and glue this in. So part of why I want to do the card challenge with black and white, they're neutrals. Most of us have them. And then picking an accent color with limited supplies, you can make incredible cards, right? So now when I do the gluing here, the easy thing is to put the glue right on this side. Okay. Stay within the score line. And then just line this up on the edge. And then to test it, I put it like this. And remember, when you're doing the glue, you have this little time frame where you can slide the card front if you need to. And there you go with this, right? Something is a little cattywampus, that word, cattywampus. Okay, that's all right. This is real art. So the other thing you could do is take your blending brush and you could put a little color in there if you want, or you can just leave it. So you can decide to do the stepped up version or the straight, more simplified. And there's a lot of other techniques, right? That you could make this look so many different ways with one stamp set, black and white, and your favorite color of ink and cardstock, and you would have gorgeous cards. So, any other comments or questions? Like I said, the card challenge that this will work for, and if you weren't here in the beginning, here's the other one that I've shared online, and there's a third card, which do you think I could find it in my craft room right now? No. See this one? I did put it on this part, but not this part. So this is also very similar, just a little bit different size for this fun fold, but it's also a Z fold. So very easy to do. All right, and the prize, I hope to get 3 lucky people to get this prize in the mail, and it's 5 card fronts that are all butterflies. I think you all have butterfly stamps, so it could go with this. And this was very popular, and it's retired, so you can't get it unless you get it in this drawing. So I hope that you'll make a black and white card with an accent and post it either on the Facebook page for Plum Crazy Stamping or put it in the Card Conversations, Plum Crazy Stamping Card Conversations Facebook group, and you'll get in the drawing that I'm going to do after midnight tomorrow. And I'll be posting who wins it Friday by noon. So, Kathy, you're so welcome. I'm glad that you liked this pretty idea. This was really fun. I could have kept going and going because it was fun to do. And there's a lot of techniques in here. So you can kind of show off your paper crafting, card making skills. So with that, let me just put this here and let me know if I can help you in any way, if you have questions, and or if you're interested in placing an order with the new rewards program. And please call me or email me, and I can help you through submitting that first order and make sure you get your rewards. Anyway, have a wonderful day, friends. Until we stamp together again. Bye-bye now.